In this episode, I'm going to explain to you the exact method I use to take my coaching business from a complete startup 4 years ago, i.e. $0 worth of revenue, to now being $1 million coaching business. Hello and welcome to the Profit and Cashflow Mastery podcast. I'm your host, Gavin Smith from the Profit Analyst, and in this podcast, I'm going to be showing you how simple, easy, and more important, how practical numbers can actually be for you as a small business owner. I have a pretty extensive finance career and background, but more importantly and more relevant to you is I'm a small business owner myself. I've built multiple businesses from startups and turnarounds through to 7 and even 8-figure plus businesses. And what I've learned along that journey is how to make numbers really simple and easy and practical and how to use them to guide you in your business strategies. And ultimately, that's what I now love doing. I love teaching other business owners how to make the numbers simple and easy so they can gain real clarity about their numbers. I love showing them how to identify what numbers actually matter in your business. But more importantly, I show you how to use your numbers so that you can make better decisions, which ultimately leads to better profitability, better cash flow, and growing and scaling businesses. So let's dive into it. Today I'm going to talk about the profit formula again, but I want to talk about it in action and how I've actually used it in my own businesses and how I coach other business owners to use it within their numbers. The key, real underlying message when it comes to the profit formula for me, or that I really want every business owner to know, is that profit doesn't have to be something that just happens by miracle or by chance. You know, you put your head down, you bum up and you work for a whole year and then you get to stop and look and see, did we make a profit? How much was that profit? Instead, we can actually be really intentional about creating the profit that we want to have. You know, the thing about profit is it's a number and it's an outcome number based on you managing the two things in front of it, the income and the expense side of your business. And through my profit formula, I talk about going a little layer deeper and how to really understand that. My key message here is that, we don't have to be hopeful when it comes to profit. Instead, we can be incredibly intentional and actually just literally create the profit that we want to have in our business. By knowing your business's profit formula well and knowing the numbers that you want to see, you can then do the decisions that you need to do to make sure that you get those numbers as your results. And so this is what I would call being very strategic about creating real profit. The literal definition of the word strategy means to prioritize limited resources. You can very much apply this thinking when it comes to making profit for your business. You, as the founder, the business owner, need to be able to prioritize your limited resources, be that cash, financial resources in the business, as well as your limited resource, that is your time. You need to make sure you're spending both time and money in the right areas of your business that are going to make sure that you generate the profit that you want to see for your business. Let's dive into it a little bit. I'll do a quick recap about the profit formula, and then I'll talk about how we actually use it as we're growing and scaling a business. And then I'll specifically talk to how I've used it in 2 of my businesses now, which have gone to 7 and 8 figures, and literally how we use this formula every step of the way to be able to always see where we're going to prioritize our resources and efforts to make sure that we're continually growing and scaling the profit in the business. Let's start here with a real quick recap about what is the profit formula. At its highest level, we just need to know that profit is just the outcome of when we manage income, number 1, and expenses, number 2, and if we want more profit, basic option is either more income or less expenses. You know, your job as the business owner is to make sure we have more income, less expenses, so we're creating a surplus, and that is what your profit is. And so at a real basic level, more income, less expenses equals more profit. But what I teach you guys to do is to dig a little deeper on that and see that income is actually made up of price and volume, 2 different elements that make up income. So if you want more income, you can either charge higher prices or you can have more customers, combination of the two. And likewise, we need to understand with our expense half of the equation, what are what we call variable expenses, the things which will move up and down in proportion to sales, and what are fixed expenses, your rent, your overheads, numbers that don't change regardless of income. It's knowing your specific numbers in this context, which then helps you to go from transition from theoretical, what is profit, to what is your real world decisions that you can make daily in your business. So that's at a basic level, those 4 levers. And then what I really love teaching people is to go this next layer down, which is what I refer to as the profit formula, the profit analyst secret sauce. This formula with 7 numbers, which as a reminder are price and volume, the 2 income numbers, and then these 5 different types of expenses: cost of sales, team costs, marketing, property, and overheads. These 7 numbers and knowing these 7 numbers is literally the recipe for how your business makes profit. And the beauty of knowing these 7 numbers is you can now look at them and see where is the opportunity within those 7 numbers for you to prioritize your limited resources. Where can I put my effort as the owner into one of those numbers that's going to create the greatest change to what's left over, i.e. the profit. Okay, so that's the theoretical concept. If you haven't already got yourself a copy of my profit calculator tool, you can find that on my website or just hit me up on social media. There's probably a link straight on our Instagram to find it. Somewhere in there, you'll find a copy of our profit calculator tool. It's a super simple tool which does this. You put your 7 numbers in at the top and you can see exactly where your business is right now, i.e. how is your business making profit? What are the key numbers to drive it? But the best part about this tool is you can see where you want your business to be and what would the 7 numbers look like when I'm actually generating the profit that I want to have in my business. What's got to change? This tool helps you identify the constraints that you need to solve. Do I not have enough team to be able to hit that number? Therefore, I can factor in more team wages and how much profit will I make on the other side of getting in those extra team members and growing the business. This tool helps you to see the profitability for your business now and what you want it to be. If you're a business owner who is struggling to see results or you're overwhelmed by the numbers side of your business, we can help. Book in a call with one of my team members using the link in the description and let's get your business thriving without the overwhelm. When you are growing and scaling a business over time, the thing about growing and scaling a business, it doesn't go like this. You don't have this lovely straight line of profit growth when you're growing a business. Instead, what actually happens, yes, it's going up, but it's full of what we call the peaks and troughs as we're scaling a business. Applying that profit calculator tool that I was just looking at to this, we can understand what the 7 numbers look like at this point in time. And so the beauty of being able to use the profit calculator tool and understanding what your 7 numbers of profit look like now and what they will look like then is you can actually just compare the 2 sets of numbers and you can see what needs to change. Which numbers can you even change? Because there's going to be some numbers you can't do anything about. For example, the rent. You're probably locked into a long-term contract. Can't change that at all. Overheads probably won't change much at all. Potentially your cost of sales percentage, assuming you're pretty tight with the way you're buying goods and selling them, is probably not going to change either. So you're able to use this formula, these 7 numbers, to identify which numbers can you change as you're going in the next leap from point A to point B. And then once you've made it to point B, we're then looking at what's the next set of numbers look like? What does point C going to look like? What will those numbers look like? If I think about this in the context of my own business, let's talk about this business, the Profit Analyst. I've recently just hit a milestone in this business and that we've crossed over the 7 figures. It's become a $1 million coaching business. That's taken me 4 years to do. And again, just like this chart, it hasn't been a lovely straight line from here to there. It's been filled with many ups and downs along the way. But I've been able to utilize this tool every step of the way to identify exactly where I am now in my business, where I would like to be, that next leap along. And in this kind of world, obviously it's more clients coming into the program is the thing we're aiming for. But using the profit calculator tool and understanding my profit formula, what my numbers look like now and what my numbers will look like then, I've been able to see for each lead, what is the constraint? I don't have enough leads. Okay, let's invest more in marketing. I am a bottleneck. There's not enough Gav to go around. Okay, we need to bring in another coach so that we can scale to the next level. We aren't able to get to that level in terms of actually supporting clients. Cool. We need a bigger back office team. We need some more support accountants coming into the business. Okay, now it's getting too hard dealing with this many people. All right, we need a client success manager to come in to be able to help moderate and manage the community as we're going along the way. It's been a different thing at each step of the way. And again, I've reached this new milestone, which is great. I'm getting, lots of praise for it. I'm putting it in my social media. Yay, I've reached this milestone. But I'm looking at my numbers and I know at the moment I'm at a plateau again. But I'm using this exact method. I'm looking at where I am now and I can see exactly what I want to change to have the business go to the next leap, to go from being a $1 million a year coaching business to a $2 million business. I know exactly what my numbers are going to look like there. Through knowing those numbers, I'm not just sticking my head down and running it for a bit and seeing if I'm going to get there. I'm being super intentional about knowing, this is what my next right move is. And I'm going to heavily invest into this area because that's the thing that is going to solve that bottleneck and help my business scale to the next level so I can make profit again. And it's this exact formula method that I love teaching other business owners how to do, because once you can read your business's profit formula, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you're at startup, 100K, 200K, 500K, 1 million. There's a guy in my program who's doing 30 million. It's the exact same formula. When I'm talking to him, we're able to just look at his numbers under this same formula. The rules for making profit are the same in every business. It's income and expenses and what are the different elements that make that up. And again, it's like once you learn this, it's kind of like the skill of like riding a bike. You're not going to unlearn it as a business owner. And it helps you to just always be able to pick up your business's financials, read where you are right now, be able to identify exactly where you are now and see exactly what your opportunities are, what your next right move is as you're growing and scaling your business. I've got multiple proof points of it in my own businesses. We bought a $1 million loss-making bar. We've turned it into a $10 million group now. And we've done that by every quarter, looking at our numbers, looking at our profit formula and finding what is our next right move. And it's never been the same next right move for the whole journey. At different times, it's about leadership for people, or about cost control, or about going harder on marketing, or opening a new venue because we've outgrown the one we're in. Different step each set of the way, but the numbers and this simple formula method has been able to help us always do exactly what I'm saying, identify where you are now and see what your next right move is, what the next step is as you're continuing to grow and scale the business. In short, or the kind of the recap for all of this is that profit doesn't have to be some miracle outcome that occurs for you at the end of the year when you finally pull up and have a look at it. Instead, you can be super intentional about it. You can understand exactly what your business's key drivers are, those inputs. You can be really clear about what profit you want to make and therefore what numbers you need to see. And then that helps you as a business owner. You've got total clarity about what it is you need to focus on, which parts of the business you can change, where you should put your efforts so that you make sure you get the results that you want to get, so that you end up with the profit that you want to have. And for most business owners, if you're planning an exit from your business, because many business owners are, they're thinking, look, in 5 years from now, I want to either have it under management or I want to sell out of the business. Even more reason you should have this and be incredibly intentional about it, because you can literally manufacture the results you want to have so that you can trigger your exit or trigger your sales point, whatever it is that you're actually aiming for in your business. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Profit and Cashflow Mastery. If this episode helped you gain clarity with your numbers, then please make sure you give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. And if you want to stay connected, make sure you give us a follow on the socials at The Profit Analyst.